continuing here. So, yeah, the nation's going in debt well over $20 trillion, dollars, and we're producing more and more multi billionaires, more and more poverty. The social welfare state is growing. I mean, there's more need. They're creating more need. You understand these problems are emanating from the top. We blame people in our local communities, the homeless, and the people aren't doing nothing. But hey, you know what? All the problems stem from the very top. You got to understand that. So don't blame people locally. Okay, the economic policies are emanating from on high. That's top of this pyramid of power. The money printing class in cahoots with the top political class. Okay, so it's a behemoth of deception and evil, corruption and theft. Okay, that's what's fraud. I mean, it's just that and who's feeling it the most? I mean, I always compare this. Look, if any tax that the poor also have to pay, registration goes up on your car. You got to pay more gas tax. You got to pay more for food. You got to pay more for housing. If the poor also have to pay those expenses, these are taxes upon the poor. You understand? So to make an analogy of this, it's just like the poor, for them, it's really hard. You know, for the financially well-heeled, it's like getting a pinprick in your arm. Oh yeah, they'll even vote. You know, they'll say, okay, it's okay, raise the cost. I got stocks and shares in that. I'll vote to raise the price for gasoline because I know I get more money. I'll get my 401k will go up anyhow. So yeah, let's impose that tax. So they say it's nominal fee for me to pay, and plus I'm invested in that thing. You understand the problems here that we're facing and how we're in a lot of trouble? But then, you know, for the poor, they get a jab in the arm with a spike. You understand? That's what it's like. That's why they fall by the wayside. Another one bites the dust. I mean, people say that, you know, I'm one paycheck away from homelessness, and it's true. They say, hey, my rent went up $25 a month, and I'm done. I'm out of here. I can't do it anymore. They won't complain. It must be my fault. I'm just too weak. I can't cope. They won't complain to the landlord. They won't say, hey, you know what? I can't do it anymore. Please don't raise my rent because, you know, everything's gone up and my wages won't. My boss won't give me a raise. And, you know, you understand the problems that we have here with this chain reaction and who's back all this debt, this national debt is falling on, and how they're getting the poor to pay that back by debasing our currency, making it worth less. So it's like working harder and harder and harder. It's like running in the sand and somebody keeps dumping more and more sand, so you're not making progress. You're not getting any traction. You're not getting ahead at all. You're not even treading water. You're going backwards. That's what it's like. It's like your wages keep going down and down and down. Your burden keeps going up and up and up. And it's just tweaking that fear gauge. And people wonder why they're stressed out. Does the mainstream media explain it to you like that? What's going on? What's bugging you? Okay, I am. And I'm telling you, it's a serious problem. We're in a lot of trouble. And we have to get very, very serious about what it's going to take to fix this and extricate ourselves from the maws of these evil freaking monsters that are trying to destroy humanity. I believe that the more people know about how easy it is to please God, more people would at least try. The evidence for mass manipulation would be the Overton window. Look it up and you'll understand what's going on here. While there is still a little time left, consider your own personal day of reckoning, when you stand before your Maker, your owner, a day which could come at any moment, without warning. Imagine your crestfallen countenance if the premier values you embraced during your life were wrong. That instead of loving the ephemeral things of this temporary, dreamlike world, things like money and material possessions, you should have valued human beings infinitely more than worldly treasures, just as your owner does. I seriously wonder how many people can ever even ask, why they are forced to pay a cost to exist on their own damned planet, euphemistically referred to simply as the cost of living. I thank God, at least I know I ask. When anyone is dealing in essential human needs, commodities, they essentially have the public by the throat. If they silently decide to collude in order to manipulate price, cost, and financial burden, citing euphemistically increasing values, meanwhile, we the people subsidize these psychotic criminals to the tune of 50 billion annually through Section 8 housing, the social welfare program, to pay the rents for those whom are unable to pay their own rents. Logic dictates that buying such people some modest form of housing would be profoundly cheaper in the long run than perpetually renting. It's as if Americans don't know the difference between buying and renting anymore. Yeah, people say, oh my gosh, how liberal can you be? You want to buy these welfare recipients that can't afford their own housing costs? You want to buy them housing as opposed to just subsidizing it? I think, well, wait a minute. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm a registered Trump Republican because I believe Trump believes that prosperity is the best path to freedom. And he's ashamed of homelessness, is why I voted for him. That was the hook. That's the only reason why. That's it. Other than that, I've got no regard from him any more than anyone else. Like, Stacey Herbert would say on the Kaiser Report, Joe Bag of Donuts, or Jane Bag of Donuts, I guess. Joe and Jane Bag of Donuts. But no, I don't have any more regard for Trump than any of them, except he's going to be in this position of power and being ashamed of homelessness. That's echoing, reflecting where I'm coming from. I'm ashamed of it. All of us have to do is look forward to fearful expectations and fall into the hands of the living God, angry God. If we think this is okay in any way, and we go along with our little lives indifferently, complacently, not caring about other people's problems, that's evil. So, anyhow, yeah, if it'd be a lot cheaper just to buy people houses and then you're done with it, you've solved the problem, then you start sticking that $50 billion every year into your own pocket, you the taxpayer, and you think that's too liberal? I'm for saving money, for saving taxes any way you can. That means your cost of living has to go down. Your taxes have to go down. That means your currency goes up in worth. You see the light at the end of the tunnel there as your currency keeps increasing in worth, as your cost of living gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And eventually, we don't care about money anymore. It's rendered irrelevant. The money masters of misery are rendered irrelevant, which, of course, is what they don't want. No. Yeah, and this homelessness issue and people's adversity and opposition to affordable housing because they need people to die out there in the cold in order to extract these exorbitant rents and mortgages. I mean, does it get more evil than that? Oh my gosh, it leaves me speechless just thinking about it. It's tough, man. It's tough. Oh my God, man. I mean, does it get worse than that? They're murdering people. So not only are they thieves, but they're murderers to get their way, to have high housing costs, and to keep this trajectory toward death and destruction going. That's what they're willing to murder people. They're willing to commit genocide. The people in the positions of power around this world, they want to commit genocide. Look up the Georgia Guidestones. These people want to get the Earth population down to 500 million from the current, 7.5 billion approximately. So understand the monsters we're up against. These people are nothing to toy with. These are freaking monsters by every definition, by every yardstick. They're freaks, man. So yeah, they wouldn't blink an eyelash. Me, keep my position in power, my money and my material possessions, and keep the control and power I have over the affairs of men. Yeah, I would gladly kill billions of people. You bet. These are the people that run the world. They've got no regard for conscience. That's hooey. That's bull, man. Conscience. Integrity, I'm just living for this life, man. I don't believe in God. I don't have to answer to God. I spit on God. It's my life. I'll do what I want. See, these are the ones that are going to be ruling in hell. You got to make damn sure you don't end up there. So, when it comes to believing in full equality, universal prosperity and God's will being accomplished on earth, you better be 100% for it. Because if you withhold 1%, you understand, you're in the same camp with those elitists, those hypocrites that are on that path, on that highway to hell. Those that are going to be ruling in hell are going to be ruling over you because you missed the boat by 1%, because your heart wasn't 100% pure. You prescribe to just a little bit of inequality. I'm just a little bit elitist. I don't believe in full prosperity, universal prosperity around the world. And asking whose planet is this anyhow? Do we not all have an inherent right to share in the intrinsic resources of this planet? And who is any man to tell me you're not? I mean, it's just, come on, let's ask those questions. Am I the only guy out there? Who am I? You ask those questions. Be empowered. I'm empowered. I'm still only one little drop in the bucket. At least I know, man. And you can know too. There are many ways to solve the issues and implications of unsound currency. For example, simply allow true capitalism to run the economy without government intervention. Again, pseudo-government intervention. Because if it was we the people government intervention, then we would have gotten our way back in 2008 and there would have been no bailout and people wouldn't have been kicked out of their houses fraudulently and had their houses stolen. And we would have seen a market correction if the people, the true government, got their way. And we would have had more affordable housing, a hell of a lot less homelessness, desperation, less need for the social welfare system, Section 8 housing, all that crap. Every day, people demanding they get their way and become universally prosperous by allowing true capitalistic supply and demand activity be unfettered by pseudo-government controls. Give cost of living adjustments by law to minimum wage workers annually to finger the market manipulators for colluding and causing unnatural rises in the cost of living. Right, so employers, when they complain about by law having to pay higher, they shouldn't have to. Remember, wages should go down. It's a two-way street. That's what should happen. As your currency keeps increasing in worth, there's no reason in the world why wages couldn't go down. Because your buying power would still be going up even as your wages went down. So let's finger the causers, the colluders, the market manipulators, the price fixers. Okay, and primarily it's the top dogs. And they're rendering people in your local community their image and likeness. Well, it's only prudent and smart. You got to be, you either got to be a landlord or a tenant these days. You got to either be an oppressor or the oppressed. I mean, there's no middle ground here. So make your choice. God, we're so screwed up. But, the government workers are glad to accept their cost of living adjustment and not to complain about, in behalf of the minimum wage workers. Metal-backed currency would help. Gold or silver, all these things act as checks and balances and accountability in the economic market to have some semblance of sound money, sound currency, sound economic policy. There's many solutions, clearly, but there's just a lot of people that don't want solutions. The criminal class, the thieves. They don't want the problem solved. They'd be rendered irrelevant. They don't want to be rendered irrelevant. They want to be more and more relevant, more and more needed, so they create more and more problems. Because the vast majority of jobs in America now revolve around the problems persisting. If you got rid of the one problem of desperate poverty, crime would plummet. Think of all those people employed in the criminal industrial complex, all the jailers and judges and attorneys and clerks, on and on and on. And that your taxes are paying for. The dubious wars, they couldn't get those started if you just ended desperate poverty. Much more difficult. People could do their own research. I'll go to this war, not that one. The social welfare industrial complex, how much are you spending your tax dollars on that? Your taxes would have to go down. Obviously, a child would understand that. And then 25% of people employed in the financial services industry, of course you wouldn't need that. The people would be rendered irrelevant. Those jobs would go away. And just think of this perks you might not even think of, like traffic on the freeways, commuter traffic dropping completely overnight. Basic universal income would do that. There's no need for people to go to jobs that don't exist anymore because we solved the problem.